Hello and welcome back to the Marketing Chat Room. I'm Kayla here with Alexa Phillips today. Super excited to chat with her. She is founder and chief brand architect of Bright Eyes Creative, which I really love that title, by the way. It's very cute. So welcome, Alexa. Super excited to have you here and to be chatting about all things like content and some brand ecosystems on today's episode.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll have you give a quick intro on yourself and then we'll dive right in.
Yeah, so I am I feel like I wear many hats. I am a writer, I'm a brand strategist, I'm also a multi-passionate creative. I kind of have my hand in a lot of different things, but yeah, so I mostly focus on writing and brand consulting for creatives and then consumer brands and startups. So I do a lot of like marketing consulting, freelance writing, brand and business development. So kind of a bag of a lot of different things, but to me they all kind of like go together. You kind of have to have your business design, your brand strategy and kind of like your brand marketing together to kind of create one cohesive brand experience, which is something that I focus on because I'm very much a big picture thinker and I think yeah, I kind of like to touch all different areas because they all coincide and relate to one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like a true marketer. I've never met a marketer who just wears one hat in my life. So that makes sense. And then you actually went from in-house to being founder of your own company. Talk to me a little bit about that journey and why you did it and how it's going.
Yeah, so I actually started my business. It's now like 8 years, I think. I just passed my 8 year anniversary as kind of a way to like freelance or find like kind of fill the gap between when I graduated from college and when I started like looking for a full-time job. My whole family is very entrepreneurial, and so my dad was like, "Oh yeah, you should just, start a business and everything and like do some freelancing while you wait to, get a full-time job." And ironically enough, I filed my LLC paperwork. And then a week later, I got my first full time job out of college. And then I just kind of kept my business as a side hustle while I was in working. And then I ended up going back to school, getting a master's in marketing because my undergraduate's in journalism. And then so I was like keeping the business. And then about 4 years ago, I kind of just decided to take the leap and just like work for myself. I had a really toxic boss at the time, and it was just becoming too much. And then again, my parents floated the idea of like, hey, why don't you just consider freelancing? And once they planted the seed, I was like, there's no going back. And so that's what it's been for the last 4 years. And I can't believe it's already been that long, but it's been kind of a roller coaster in such a good way.
That's awesome. And I know you kind of call this your portfolio career, which is very cool. Tell me what you mean by that.
Yeah, so I kind of came across the term in a couple different places, but one person who talks about it a lot is Anna McKenzie. I think she popularized the term, but it's basically like creating just different income and revenue streams by doing different types of things where you're not just like, oh, I'm just doing like offering this one service or this one revenue stream. You're kind of just doing multiple things. Like I mentioned kind of in my intro, I'm working, I do like freelance writing, but like mostly for like SaaS companies. And then I also am doing like brand and business consulting, but it's more focused on like solos and creatives, and I'm starting to get into doing more speaking and guesting and things like that. So really just kind of building this career of just different income streams in different lanes. And I really like it because I get bored pretty easily, and I think over the course of the last couple of years, I've really tried to like, I'm like, oh, I could just do this one thing. And then I found that I got super bored and burnt out of it. And I was like, I just need that spice of life, that variety in my career and just doing different things. And so I've just been kind of like finding, my lanes in each of these areas and just saying, okay, it doesn't have to be all this or nothing. It can just be a mix of things.
Totally. Yeah, that sounds super fun and I relate to that too. It's nice being on the agency side, we get a little bit of that too. Like we're not super niche in the types of clients we work with or anything like that. So it's nice to be able to learn a lot about it, a lot of different industries and work on many different types of tasks and campaigns
Yeah,
and
yeah, cause
strategies.
yeah, cause when I started in like that B2B SaaS world in-house, and then that was like my first really place of getting gigs when I was first starting my business full time. And so and people still come to me and they're like, "Hey, like we know you're like we know you do this type of writing, like are you interested in taking on this project?" And so I still like do that, but I also like to write for myself too. So I think having that only just as like one part of my career and one income stream allows me to have that more like creative flexibility that I want, because when at least for me, when I'm writing all the time as my only thing for work, I get super burned out and I'm like, I can't do this like creatively or like just for myself. So it's nice that I have the option to kind of just do different types of projects too, to kind of help with that creative burnout.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's a real thing. And it's awesome that you found a way to overcome that too. Let's dive into our main theme for today, which is content and those content driven brand ecosystems that we were talking about a little bit ago. Let's kind of define that for the audience and then dive into some of the specifics there.
Yeah, so kind of how I view it, us marketers, we know the marketing funnel, right? You start at the top with awareness all the way down to the decision and even beyond with advocacy and loyalty. But the way people are finding brands now and just discovering brands, it's not so linear anymore. It's kind of like almost like a circular ecosystem where the brand, if you kind of visualize it as a diagram, the brand is like, think of it like in the middle, and then there's all these things around it. Like it could be social media, it could be a paid ad, it could be a brand activation, it could be a piece of long form content. So all of those things are funneling into this brand. So, and you're not really just taking the customer anymore from, oh, you're gonna like discover us and we're gonna nurture you and then you're gonna purchase. It's instead giving the customer a way to kind of create this brand world and explore this brand world that this brand puts together of different things that they can explore. Like they could like sign up for their newsletters, they could subscribe to them on YouTube, they could follow them on social media, they could be doing UGC and all this other stuff. So it's kind of just building a world around products and services that really is offering more of like that transformation from the get-go instead of like pushing transaction. And I think like that's really important because I think people just want to be building that relationship and connecting with brands before they're ready to make a purchase with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's super smart, the brands that are doing that well. It's just more of a modern strategy. When you were talking, I was thinking back to like, I remember in the 90s when they'd have those infomercials and it would be like, call to make your purchase of like this product that they just
Yeah,
went
and
on
I
and on about.
Yeah, and I think too we are seeing longer sales cycles. Like I see it too with like in even in like the online business, like creative service provider world where like a lot of people would tell me they're like, "Oh yeah, like 5 years ago on Instagram it was so easy to just like post a link to your service and like get people to book, but now it's like you have to do all this warming up and building trust with people over a period of like 3, 6, 9 months just to like get people comfortable enough to want to buy from you." And I think brands are starting to see the same thing too, where it's like your built that trust building period is taking longer and customers are being more discerning with how they're spending their money and things like that. So it's really just wanting to keep your brand top of mind. So when the customers are ready to make that purchase, like you're right there.
For sure. Yeah, building trust is so important in this landscape. And I think in this like financial situation the world is in right now as well, because if we're going to make a purchase, because we can't usually, most of us probably can't just make every purchase that we want to. So that kind of aligns with what you were saying about the building trust and the sales cycle being a little bit longer. I know myself as a consumer, if I'm in the market for something, and it's a bigger purchase, it's not like something I'm going to just buy today, I will follow several brands that offer the same thing on like my preferred platforms, which usually I start with Instagram, and just kind of like it's almost like I'm letting them market to me, like I'm letting myself be a part of their brand world. And then over time, it kind of helps me decide like which one is most aligned with my goals or my values. As a consumer. And so it is interesting to think of it from both a consumer standpoint and a marketer standpoint, like how that brand world experience really does influence your purchasing decisions.
Yeah, and I mean, I do the same thing, especially for bigger purchases. Like, I'll do a lot of research. Like, I'll look like at TikTok videos, like unboxing videos or like reviews that people will put out there. Like, I will like do stuff on like YouTube or like Pinterest or like I'll just use different channels to kind of just like research like the product and stuff before I purchase, which I feel like is a very normal type of thing. Because people want to make sure, especially if it's like a higher ticket item, that they're actually getting that value and it's not this like regretting purchase. Because the worst thing is when you purchase something that you felt so confident in and then you get it and you're like, okay, well, this didn't actually live up to the expectation that I thought it was. And then you just like get disappointed and you're like, okay, well, do I like even trust this brand anymore?
Yeah, for sure. And the ones that I usually end up going with throughout that process are the ones that have really compelling stories. Often there's like a founder story or two in there, and testimonials, like just which is just really more stories.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, like we're seeing so much like founder led content as well. Like so many, even like in the SaaS space and also like in the product like startup space, like so many people are putting their founders like front and center and just really putting them as like a face to the brand. Whereas like before it was like, oh, there's this brand, but now you have the founder who when you see it you're like, oh yeah, this is the founder of this company. So it's kind of building that like additional brand association and putting that like face behind it, because I think people want to connect with somebody now, not just like this faceless brand. They want to actually connect with a real person.
Totally. Yeah. And that probably plays into just the landscape that we're living in with AI and everything, and how that's kind of changed the way people do content as well.
Yeah, like we're not seeing a lot of faceless marketing, like especially on Instagram. Like, whereas maybe 5-ish years ago, you could get away being like this faceless marketing account just posting a bunch of how-to tips. Now you can't. Like, if you're a solo, like you need to have like your profile picture, like be you, even if your business name is something different. So for me, since my business name is Bright Eyes Creative, like people will associate like Alexa with that, and you want to kind of have like both associations there, and you have to really post more about like how you are doing something, like things that basically you can't find on AI, because this generic like how to content is things that like you can find on Google, you can find on ChatGPT. It doesn't really build the trust of like why you are the person or the brand to solve your consumers' problems.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, people can just ask AI themselves these days if that's the kind
Exactly.
of
And it like
information they're
really,
looking
and
for.
it's so sad from like an expert's perspective, because it really devalues expertise, because anybody literally with any skill level can just ask ChatGPT, even from an SEO perspective, hey, can you write me an SEO article on XYZ topic? So it really devalues the people who have that level of expertise in the content.
True, true. That's a good point. Yeah, it's so interesting AI in
It
this
is like
landscape.
we're kind of at this point where like the rule book is getting rewritten like right in front of our eyes, because before, like, you're probably really plugged in, like you know that HubSpot's like very like the go-to for like all things SEO, like a lot of like marketing stuff, and like even them, it's like you have to kind of just like alter your strategy now just based on what we're seeing in the landscape with like how AI is changing things, how search is changing things, what consumers want. And you, so I think we're getting like this new playbook being rewritten and just a huge vibe shift in marketing as a whole.
Totally. Yeah, it's interesting to see it play out in real time too. And I actually think it is probably making on both sides, but there are definitely some positive impacts, which I think does lean toward like that human driven, that relational and trust building piece. Even within LinkedIn over the last couple like weeks, months.
Hmm.
Just maybe like I'd say maybe like the last 2 months with the Nick Power movement as well. Like just people being more authentic and more relatable because there is so much AI generated content out there that you really have to seem human to stand out in that
Yeah, and I
ecosystem.
really think we're gonna see this shift. And I posted this like, I don't know, a few weeks ago, where I think we're eventually gonna get to the point where everything is so AI saturated that people are gonna go back to the humans and like commissioning like real pieces of art, commissioning real pieces of writing, that because everyone's like, oh well, everything else is AI driven, I want to stand out. So I'm gonna go back to like working with real people to create things instead of just doing AI generated stuff.
Yeah, totally. It kind of reminds me of when like marketing kind of like everything was looking really streamlined. I don't know,
Hmm.
maybe 3, 4 years ago, like all creative kind of looked professional and good, but very, very similar.
Yeah.
And then people started doing the like, our social media manager is on vacation, like making fake little stuff like it was
Hmm.
made in Microsoft Paint and stuff. It kind of reminds me of that when we just like, we get tired of seeing something that's basically the same over and over. And so people try to start thinking of like, how can we stand out?
Yeah, exactly. And I've noticed too, like even on Instagram, like doing carousels, it's not these like overly designed carousels anymore. Like people just literally will upload pictures of them, pictures like throughout their week, and just like put text overlays on it. And like those, and like I've even seen it on my own account, like resonates so well with people. I think it's just because it's just so casual. And I think that's kind of
Mhm.
where social media is going. Like I think we've like reached the peak where it's been like over designed, overdone. Like I think it's just so casual now where people are like, yeah, I'm just gonna like throw up my thoughts. Like it's not, it doesn't have to be super optimized. And I think that's really the trick because that's really what builds that emotional connection with people.
For sure. Yeah, it's almost a little cyclical, like back to I'm thinking back to like MySpace, early Facebook when when social
Yeah,
media kind of got
and I
its
think
start.
people want that because like I think we've lost the social from social media where now it's just become this like recommendation engine where it's like, "Oh yeah, we're just going to show you things that we think you would like instead of actually connecting with the people in your world." So yeah, I know there's been a lot of push with people I follow like on threads and stuff who are like, "Yeah, like we really want to make social media like social again."
I like that. Yeah. Yeah, like early Twitter. Oh man, those were
Oh
fun
yeah, no.
times.
Also, like the super side note, I know this is like not part of our show, but I literally just saw on HBO that they released a 4-part Twitter documentary about the rise and fall of Twitter. I'm like not even,
Wow.
yeah, I was like, okay, I totally have to watch this as like a marketer now. But yeah, I'd be like very curious. But yeah, early Twitter, like I feel like Threads is kind of in that like place right now too, because Threads is like very casual. Like people don't really, people use it for marketing and selling, but it's not as like optimized as like Twitter was before Elon bought it.
Yeah, for sure. That's so interesting. Do you have any examples that come to mind of brands that are doing this well?
Yeah, I mean a lot of fashion brands. I've been following a ton of fashion brands and some good examples like I think they'll do a lot, like I think Miu Miu is like one that comes to mind where they actually did this like New York City like book pop-up, which is really cool, where and it really, instead of them just like selling Miu Miu as like a fashion brand, it was like, oh, like I think the books they were doing at this pop-up were all like I think they were all like with female heroines and stuff like that, so it really showed like more of like their values. So like brands do stuff like that, fashion brands also getting on Substack and kind of just expanding their brand world that way and not doing like it as like a, hey, you need to buy our products, but more like, hey, here's like a thing about styling or something that's like adjacent to what they're doing but like also, does that. So I think brands are looking for different ways to like be curators and show their values and just kind of expand the world and get people in, that's not just like, oh, here's like a product you can buy or a promotion, but it's like, oh, here's how we can like help you and like actually provide that value I was talking about. Because a lot of people want the value, like they want free value before they have to pay for it. And I think that's what a lot of these brands are trying to do. So expanding into things like Substack, doing in real life activations, working with like creators and like celebrities, and just and doing more of this like branded long form like scripted content. Like these brands are doing these like fun scripted series like on Instagram where it almost kind of feels like an advertisement but like on social media. So they're really getting creative with the types of content that they produce to then kind of just create this world that people can just explore and just bounce in between different things.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's really fun. I'm watching a couple brands right now that are like newer. What is the one? I think it's called Goldie. And it's like a girl's beer brand basically. And it's so cute. So I love watching like brands that I'm like, ooh, I can tell you know what you're doing, but you're like just getting started and watching them kind of take off
Yeah,
and
and it's
create
really
that
I think
ecosystem.
the newer brands have more they're more risk takers, I think. Like they're more the ones who are like, yeah, we're not gonna like just use this playbook or like whatever, because all the other brands like try to emulate like Duolingo and like all these like other like dinosaur brands, and you're like, okay, well, you're not this brand, so
Right.
you shouldn't try to emulate them. You should try to like find your own voice. And I think that's where we get a lot of people kind of getting confused too, where it's like, oh yeah, like we just need to like emulate the top of the industry, but like the people at the top of the industry are already on to the next idea. So it's like you're already just
Absolutely.
wasting your time.
Yeah, yeah, it's totally, especially with brands like Duolingo and Wendy's that are like known for doing things that are like a little crazy or a little different, but like great, that's working for them, but you can't just copy their whole strategy and expect it to work
Or
for your
just like
brand too.
trend jack them. Like I remember
Uh-huh.
like what was it, like a month ago or 2 months ago when we had like the death of the Duolingo owl thing, and every brand was trying to comment and capitalize on it. I'm like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, this is like a Duolingo thing.
Yeah, totally. Like come up with your own trend and
Well,
hopefully
yeah,
it'll go
like,
well.
and well, even we were talking on Pop Chat, like I think it was last week, about the Ice Bucket Challenge, about how not the ALS organization, but another organization is trying to bring back the Ice Bucket Challenge, and you're just like, okay, you couldn't think of anything like new and innovative to fundraise, like you're just doing like this trend that like another organization had success with.
Yeah, that one blew my mind because that was so long ago that it was an original
Yeah, but like
trend.
it would be cool if like they brought it back, like if ALS had brought it back and been like, "Oh yeah, we're like bringing back the ice bucket challenge" type of thing. But like and they didn't, so it kind of feels weird cuz like I always when I ever think of ice bucket challenge, I immediately associate it with ALS.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting to me because I've seen a lot of like my friends' kids participating in it. So it's like they don't even remember the
Oh yeah,
original
no,
one. They
yeah,
just
I
think
know.
it's
I've seen so many Gen Zs who I'm like friends with participate in it too, and I'm just like, "Oh, if you guys only knew." Um, yeah, so I just think it's so different. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, do these like Gen Z kids like actually know that this thing existed before?
no, they don't. It's just what happens. So we'll see what other marketing trends come back in the near future.
Well,
Hopefully nothing
yeah, I don't know.
scary.
I feel like what's it's like I feel like there's like what's old is new again. Like I feel like we're seeing a lot of like cyclical things. I feel like we're seeing a big shift back to like long form content too. I saw it and I need to like do a little bit more research, but the whole like slow content movement kind of like like basically long form, where it's like instead of like putting something up on social media for like 24 to 48 hours, it's like, oh, let's like create something that's going to last longer. So I've been seeing that as a trend too, where people are like really tired of creating for like the social media rat race and are like, we just want something that's like more longevity.
Yeah, that totally makes sense too. I could definitely see that shift taking place and people would probably be relieved as
Well,
well.
yeah, too, because I think people are just like, they're kind of just tired of the brain rot. They're tired because, like, a lot of these short form pieces of content, like, they don't add like too much value. You're like, oh, like, I'm just doing this to get the views, get the, the impressions, the engagements, whatever. But, like, what is the value I'm actually providing here? And I think that's like the shift that's kind of like sparking that entire movement.
Totally. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even as someone who creates short form content, I'm like some of the videos, I'm like, why did I even make this?
Yeah, yeah. Well, because like I mean, the powers that be, they're like, oh, this is the way. Like, I feel like if they flip the script, if like the powers that be said, oh, podcasts are going to be the way for you to build a huge audience, that's what people would do. People would do anything that people told them was like the way to like build the audience. And like the moment just happens to be short form videos right now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that blogs make a comeback. Not that people aren't writing blogs, because they definitely are, but a lot of the blogs are AI, and you can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean I want to get more into blog writing too for my business cuz like that's kind of where my heart lies is in the long form, but it's just like doing it in a way where it's like it's hard to balance it because you want it to be like good SEO, but you don't want it to be boring. And like I think that's where a lot of people got into trouble with these SEO driven blogs is because it's like all keyword stuffed and like you're talking about the same stuff as like your competitors and all of this stuff instead of being like, okay, like how can I make this SEO optimized, but also like actually show my expertise. I think that's going to be the balance that people want to strike.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that being a big goal for the next year. Um, well, thank you so much, Alexa. Before we sign off, this has been such a fun chat. Is there anything else you want to chat about or any pieces of advice you want to give to the audience?
I mean, I think my probably my biggest piece of advice is just to, and I'm still like still working on this myself too. It's like just really like just lean into who you are, lean into your personality because there is no right way to be professional anymore. Like we thought it was, oh, we have to have a boring color palette and like very basic branding, but now, you know, people can be professional and bold and all of this stuff, and that's really what's gonna get you noticed is just really just leaning into who you are and being authentic, not just like this polished version that you think you need to be. So I think that's been my biggest thing, especially in the content that you post too. It's like make sure it's like, you know, just show who you are, show your perspective, show your point of view. Don't be afraid to get a little controversial, a little unhinged. um but yeah, so I think that's what's really gonna help us all stand out in the future as we people create more and more content and it more sounds the same and AI generated.
Yeah, totally agree with you. It's definitely more relatable to come off with a personality, even if it's a little bit of like a strange personality or a
I mean, the
different kind
stranger
of
the better,
personality.
honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much. Really enjoyed this chat and super excited to get it out there for people to hear. You can connect with Alexa on LinkedIn, and I'll put some additional links in the show notes. And I'll talk to you guys later.